So I just remember that one of my skills is to reverse engineer other people's works, but not to get too close. And because I'm not good at the other end of things and dealing with legality. So, but one thing I realized is I need to get more close to the stuff that's going on right now, because otherwise no one's going to understand the breadth of the stuff that CMDS does. So I'm going to spend some time researching that and then devouring it, hopefully. And what I'm doing for the past couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years, is just developing my own niche and my own world of music that I know, because I've spent my time developing these things throughout all of the chaotic states of the world. And that's my skill, my secret skill. I told somebody about this a long time ago, is to block out everything that's going on in the world and continue to pursue my endeavors with music. And there is no way that people would ever understand what that's all about, because there's so much involved in doing that. So my next goals is going to be to continue doing what I do, to develop my own ideas for sound and my own projects lists that I haven't really posted to YouTube, because I'm not sure what to do about all that, because there's this thing that's happening on YouTube with no copyright, and there's a collision track with the regular ways of the business and the ways of the modern tech era of the business. Because one is super duper copyright, we're going to follow every little thing, and one is no copyright. And actually what I believe is that you should abolish copyright, and that artists should just be paid a flat wage based on the tier of output that they do and the audience and the reach that they have that's verifiable, because with tech you can make up anything. But I think that that's a good idea, because I think that then we can then mesh and mash and mix much more. But of course the world would have to agree to no copyright, and that's east and west, north and south. That's a whole different ballgame. But anyways, reverse engineering things is a skill set of a person who does production music, which was my favorite thing to do in California, because it gets your music into television and on TV and on radio and commercials and all that kind of stuff. And it's a way to stimulate the orbital jumper, which I spoke about in a previous video, where you learn about certain things, but then you also, through your research, discover other things. So, you could be a guy who's digging a water well, but you find an oil well right next to your water well. So this is what we do with Orbital Jumper, and that's why I'll go ahead and pursue some of the modern tendencies and trends of the moment that I can find, because I'm impressed by some of the things that they're doing, but I also understand that it's very template oriented, because I know where the sounds that they produce come from, because I'm a sound programmer, but also because I use many of the synthesizers that they also use. And I know the basic aesthetic of what is happening with the modern music is a subtle modulation of layers, and they gate. The key thing is gating, and making gating a musical notion. So they're using the silence in different ways, which is a gate, a way to gate things off and on, so that people have a way to focus on rhythm, and it surprises them, so that they will not expect a gate. In the production music world, they're called the stop. But in the modern, like, EDM world, you have gating, which is more embedded into the actual production aesthetic. So as I said before. But anyways, that's one of the things I'm going to kind of contour what I'm developing at the moment. See if I can find anything else that's going on with the EDM world. And of course, it's mixed with the Latin world, which I already know about Latin music, because I was raised by an Italian who was obsessed with actually like Latin, Spanish music, that kind of stuff, because they're obsessed. It's about the passion. They don't care about ethnicity and race and all these things. They care about if the music has soul and passion and love and fire, And so he was a violinist and saxophonist, and let me tell you, there's so many times he played the violin over certain things in the saxophone as well. But I definitely heard a lot of the Latin music. So the Latin music didn't really interest me. And what happens with me is when I'm inundated with something from my youth, it will come back later, and I will say, okay, well, I like that and I appreciate that because of this now. But it's not because it initially caught my attention, because I was already saturated with so much of it. And that's what's happening with modern music, which is what I notice is like, as long as there's a dense saturation of things like trap, EDM, the salsa, party music, which is kind of embedded with house and all these things, as long as there's a saturation, then you can have an appreciation by default. And so that's one of the tricks of commercialism, is they have such a blanket of saturation to, that's why you have to have a trained ear to really understand the difference between a great commercial production and actual original music. And that's what CMS is about. He's trying to bring it more towards original music, and the template stuff is helpful, but it is not original. So that's the point. Is to me, there's no reason to be a composer and a producer if you're not pushing to that one next level to establish the next layer of sound, the next level of sound. And that's all I do. But unfortunately, there's such a blanket saturation that it goes unnoticed. If you understand that the composite of things that I do, each one of them is complicated and unique, and when you combine them together, it's really a lot of work, and nobody understands what's involved with all that. And I think maybe some producers understand the notions of it, but when you really combine it together, it's even more work, because the level of sophistication that's involved in understanding how these things. It's almost like if you had a guitarist who was a session player come in to work on your music, you would appreciate what that person provided, all these unique ideas that they brought into the table. But then if you had like a Jimmy Page or a Jeff Beck, and they would come in, you say, whoa, there's even more going on. How am I ever going to keep track of all that? Because they turned it into something else altogether. And that's kind of what I like to do too, is I like to take what I can work with, but see what else is actually also there that's not really going, that's not getting as much attention. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to focus on some of that EDM and the modern contemporary stuff. And I'll probably do some generic stuff, but what generally happens is I walk right into something and it's totally different right off the bat, and I got to find my way back to getting to the template. So we'll see.